In 23 weeks, we did 17 rounds of a pretty hectic and, to be honest, made up 2020 Formula One season. It's been absolutely crazy, but from what some people have said that we've talked to over these past few weeks, it could be one of, if not the best Formula One season of the decade, of the millennium, or possibly even of these 70 years. We don't know, but that's your opinion. We have ours, and this is our sort of review of the 2020 Formula One season. As much as we could pack into about 40 minutes yapping on YouTube, and today we are going to be giving you 10 of our most memorable events of 2020. That can be drivers, teams, that can be memorable for basically anything, and what we will remember 2020 in a fond memory about. And as I say, there is absolutely a lot to choose from, so it's going to be 5 each, five from me and 5 from Jordan. But to be honest, Jordan, having 10 and 5 each, that's quite hard, to be honest, because as I said there, it's been such a hectic season. To make it 5 is like crazy. I don't think we're going to even do that. But anyways, let's start off with a pretty easy read off the 2020 Formula One standings. And it sounds like a bit of a procession, but it really, really wasn't. Of course, it's the outside looking in. So, as always, or as for the past few years, we've had Lewis Hamilton in first position. He has taken his 7th World Championship, and along with many other accolades in this season and to come in the future, he finished the season as a 7-time world champion in first position with Mercedes-AMG Petronas, who also rattled their 7th consecutive Constructor Championship with 347 points. His teammate Valtteri Bottas finishes in second place with 223 points, and Max Verstappen takes 3rd position and a win at the most recent race in Abu Dhabi, where of course he clinched that 3rd place with 214 points with Red Bull Racing. Sergio Perez takes 4th place in the championship. 5th place is Daniel Ricciardo. 6th place is Carlos Sainz. 7th place was Alexander Albon. 8th place was Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. 9th place was Lando Norris in the McLaren. And wrapping off the top 10 was Pierre Gasly. 11th place was Lance Stroll. 12th place was Esteban Ocon. 13th place was Sebastian Vettel, the 4-time world champion from Ferrari. Remember him? All the way down in 13th, guys. 13th. 14th place was Daniel Kvyat. 15th was Nico Hülkenberg. And yes, I did see Nico Hülkenberg. Stand by to find out where he raced and why was he racing. Last I knew, he left Formula One with Renault in Abu Dhabi. 16th place was Kimi Raikkonen, 17th is Giovinazzi, 18th is George Russell, 19th was Roman Grosjean, 20th was Kevin Magnussen, 21st was Nicolas Latifi, and Jack Aitken 22nd, and Pietro Fittipaldi in 23rd position. Wow. 2 drivers who again we'll get onto in a little bit. It is such a hectic Formula One season in 2020, and we need to start at the very, very start. We're heading into Australia, the 25th edition of the Australian Grand Prix, ran at Albert Park since 1996, and it was going to be a really good event. All the fans, all the spectators were at the event. All the teams were there, ready to go ahead. And then we didn't. COVID-19, of course, the global pandemic, which has just basically ruined everything and made this year so hard on every single part of ways of life, shut down Formula One, and we had to leave Australia with nothing planned for the future. It was a very hard moment for Formula One to find out that we had to leave Australia and we might not even get a Formula One season going. It was really, really hard to obviously fathom that. And again, a lot of people were left in the dark. Formula One drivers, teams, fans, and everyone about what was going to happen. But finally, there was light on the end of the tunnel. We came back to Formula One in early July with the Austrian Grand Prix of 2020. We had provisionally 8 rounds, and we kept adding to that with some tracks, of course, that we'd been to normally in Europe, some tracks that we'd been to in the past, and some tracks that we'd never even been to ever in Formula One. And of course, then after 17 rounds, we ended Formula One at the Abu Dhabi circuit, the Yas Marina circuit in the Middle East. And there, of course, there were the 2 continents that we visited in this season, Europe and, of course, then the Middle East of Asia. As I say, it was an absolutely incredible season so far, and, of course, ended with Lewis Hamilton with the victor. Anyways, Jordan, let's jump into our top 5 moments in. As just said there, it is a lot to say. And without, before we start, guys, let us know your favourite moments of the 2020 Formula 1 season in the comments section below. We know what a lot of them are going to be, but we'd like to see a few curveballs in here now and then. So, Jordan, I think the first one to start off with is the biggest one. Lewis Hamilton, 7 World Championships. Lewis Hamilton, the man from Stephen, is the MBE and most recently crowned the 2020 Sports Personality of the Year by the BBC and standing on the verge of a knighthood. 95 wins, 98 pole positions, and further extending that in the future. He's definitely going to hit 3 digits in those sides. Going for 8. It's absolutely incredible to see what the man from Stevenage has done. And he has won his 7th World Championship, and he did this at the Turkish Grand Prix in Istanbul Park. 7 World Championships. Lewis Hamilton has had an absolutely dominating season. Now, we started this season, of course, with Lewis Hamilton going in to win his 7th World Championship, stronger than ever. He lined up alongside Valtteri Bottas in a very strong W11 car, and Mercedes have just dominated all throughout this season. Lewis Hamilton has given us some incredible racing throughout the season. He is one of the best drivers of all time. He could possibly be the GOAT. And Jordan, this is definitely one of my standout moments of the season. We'll be talking about Lewis a lot more in this episode. But firstly, the biggest thing, and again, what will be remembered, on the front pages of Formula 1 2020, if we were a newspaper, it's Lewis and it's 7. I mean, what do you think about that? When we saw him cross the line in Turkey to become, it was pretty much inevitable, mind. It wasn't like a shock race. But when we saw him to cross the line and become the 7th world champion, matching Michael Schumacher, of course, the driver who before him, it seemed like an impossible achievement. Mm-hmm. Lewis had won 7. What did you think when you saw that?
Well, firstly of all, we were seeing witnessing history in front of our very eyes, weren't we? Despite whether you like Lewis Hamilton or not, it was still a brilliant achievement, an achievement that nobody thought would ever be matched or even beaten for that matter as well. It's been incredible what Lewis Hamilton has done this season in Formula 1 and just throughout the entirety of his career. Making that move to Mercedes, which looked like a bit of a silly choice back in 2013, definitely paid off. And I'm not a one to tell you guys that. You already know that. But no, Lewis Hamilton crossed the line in Turkey. It was just like he's done it. We knew it was coming, we just didn't know when and where. And I mean, lad, if I had told you in February, March, Lewis Hamilton will win 7 World Championships. Oh, yeah, we knew that. In Turkey, wait, what? Turkey's not on the 2020 calendar. We heard about Jordan. That makes no sense.
True.
That just proves how crazy of a season it's actually been. But no, I mean, firstly of all, the Turkish Grand Prix in itself was crazy because of the slippery surface that, the track had just been resurfaced a couple of weeks before the race took place, and there was enough time for the grease or whatever to remove itself, like the new oils and stuff were being just resurfacing on itself, so nobody could get any grip into their tires, and literally everyone was slipping and sliding all over the place. It was absolutely amazing to see, and even though Lewis Hamilton was still at times off the pace, because obviously Lance Stroll, he controlled the race. We'll get on that in a little bit. But no, I think for me, that was probably one of Lewis Hamilton's best ever races. He was right. It was in the midfield. He was struggling like everybody else, but things went his way. Mercedes, did their calls right, and literally he went from being about 20 seconds behind Lance Stroll to 35 seconds in the lead. Like, what? Why? How? What? It was mental, that race, but also as well the moment of Lewis Hamilton crossing the line. And you're just like, wow, it's done. It's finally done. Where will that where will Lewis Hamilton set that benchmark now? Is it going to be 8, or will he just stay at 7? Maybe he will never win a championship again, because everyone thought Schumacher was going to get 8, 9, and 10, and he never did. So can Lewis Hamilton?
Yep.
Really don't know, do we? But speaking on the Turkish Grand Prix, like I said, the Lance Stroll controlling the Grand Prix and that very weekend, my first moment, is that what I'm going to mention, one of my favourite standout moments, is his pole position at the Turkish Grand Prix. I mean, now, yeah, Lance Stroll has certainly been that kind of driver to really criticise. Yes, his dad owns the team. He bought his way into Formula 1, let's say, more than most, to be honest with you. And his F1 career didn't get off to a good start. He was very off the pace. He wasn't like a one to watch for this guy, you know what I mean? He wasn't a one to keep an eye on, like a one for being a world champion. But people kind of backed him and said, give him time. His junior record, he's got a decent amount of wins and championships under his belt. Give him a chance to kind of get settled. He goes to Racing Point, again controversial because his dad bought the team. He got him a seat, which we knew, worst kept secret in Formula 1. And then in 2020, the Racing Point came about. We knew this. So we knew that Racing Point was going to be at the top of the midfield. Did we think it was going to be like a top three contention? Well, even though at the time we thought Ferrari would be in the top three, but did we think it would be winning weekly races, winning week in, week out? Probably not. But even still, though, we knew the Racing Point was going to be really good this season, and they were. They were really good at times. And Lance Stroll certainly, especially in the first half of the season, really showed everyone what he was capable of. At one stage, he was even beating Checo Perez. Yes, Perez did miss them 2 races with COVID, but if you just took them out of the equation, or even before then, Lance Stroll was still ahead of Checo Perez anyway. So for me, Stroll was one of the drivers of the season up until this point, but then things didn't go quite his way in the second half of the season. And this was in that second half of the season as well, where pole position was going to go to anybody. Like I said, slippery surface, Verstappen looked quick, Mercedes looked relatively quick, as did the Racing Points. Sergio Perez was probably my favourite to get pole position, and bang, there goes Lance Stroll on pole. And I was just like, that was amazing. That is incredible to see. That was really, really good. I was really happy for Stroll. He was so happy. Like, oh guys, tell us where we are. Where did we finish? Tell me again and again. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was really good to see. Really good to hear. I am thrilled for Lance Stroll to see him get his first pole position in Formula One. Lyle, we like Lance Stroll on this channel. We've spoken very highly of him, especially as he's got into his career in Formula One. We were a bit sceptical at the beginning, but now I think we're kind of, Stroll has shown us what kind of a driver he is, and definitely, if Racing Point do have, or Aston Martin, shall we call them now, because there's after the 2020 season. So him and Aston Martin next season, will they have a good car? More than likely, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Would he have another good season? I've got more belief in Stroll now than what I did at this point 12 months ago. But yeah, Lance Stroll getting his pole position, Lyle. You must have loved seeing him cross the line and get his first ever Formula One pole position.
Yeah, no, I absolutely loved it. I mean, firstly, Lance Stroll, yes. I mean, incredible. One of the best seasons, definitely an underrated driver for 100%. Sure. And he fully deserved it. He really, really did. It was incredible to see. He really did. They finally had the pace in the Racing Point car to achieve the big result. And again, the other guy on the side, we'll get on him again a little bit. I feel like we're saying that a lot now. We'll get onto that in a little bit. But let's start with Lance. Absolutely incredible. He already had a podium before that as well. Again, in a very special race, and like I'm going to say, we'll get on that in a little bit. But Lance was incredible. Yeah. So this was the first podium. This was the first pole position since Jacques Villeneuve 20 years ago, of course, fellow Canadian driver, last Canadian world champion. It was a special race for Lance. Again, really showing, the it's kind of like another how about that kind of thing. Remember Valtteri Bottas, how about that in Australia 2019? Yes. How about that? It kind of was, even though I don't think Lance really he doesn't see the the people that give him hate or anything like that, give him criticism because of, as Jordan has said there, about the paid driving and stuff. He's definitely shown this season that he doesn't deserve any of that. And that Lance Stroll name, the silver spoon in his mouth, is completely gone, for sure. I was so happy to see Lance Stroll getting on pole position. Again, this is another driver. We absolutely love new drivers getting on pole, getting on the podium, and even getting race wins. And again, we had a lot more before that, because this was towards the end of the season, so we had a lot more of that before. New drivers on the podium. There was 13 drivers, by the way, guys, on the podium. 13 out of 20 drivers, well, 23, but the normal 20 that started the season. We had 13 on the podium. You have to go back till 2012 to have that many drivers on the podium, and obviously we know why 2012 was so memorable, and that's, of course, again, can add to the argument that, of course, this season is one of, if not the best. It was just absolutely incredible to see. It really, really was. Lance definitely deserved it. Racing Point deserved it as well. It was incredible to see them. Everyone that was happy about that. Of course, Lance's first pole position, as well. And because of what he'd achieved so far in the season and the very consistent result of Racing Point, definitely, he deserved everything he got on that weekend. And obviously, Sergio Perez got a top 3 in terms of pole position in podiums on the Saturday as well. I think he was P3 for himself, so it was absolutely incredible for that. Now, speaking kind of a little bit on the Racing Point, or when we saw really the first indication of how fast they were going to be and how consistent they were going to be throughout the whole season. So we have to go back to the Hungarian Grand Prix, round 3 of this new 2020 season. Now, we'd already had 2 amazing rounds in Austria and, of course, the Austrian and Styrian Grand Prix, heading into the rained-out Hungaroring in Budapest. Racing Point were on form there throughout the whole weekend, but it's not to talk about them. Ooh. Now, this moment for me stood out very, very well. It's not a driver, this is a team. And this is a bunch of guys and girls who don't really get the credit that they deserve a lot of the time. They do in bits and bobs, in pit stops, they always get like, thank you boys, thank you guys on the podium, and they always get, some of them might go up and get sprayed with the champagne, but this is when they really deserve it. And I'm so happy to see that these got the admiration that they fully deserved. And that, of course, is the Red Bull pit crew of Max Verstappen. Now, the formation lab, very, very, nothing happens on a formation lab very much. Drivers warm up the tyres and come back to line up on the grid. Well, of course, as I just said there, it was rainy and it made the track like oil. Max Verstappen, car number 33 in Red Bull Racing, he span out, hit the barrier and lost his front wing and did damage, to be honest, pretty bad sustainable damage to that car. Well, we've seen drivers retire on the formation lap before. Remember Romain Grosjean in that Haas car in 2016 Brazil. He span out on the formation lap. He totaled that car almost, to be honest, the same as what Verstappen did. But obviously that was in a Haas the first season. The Red Bull guys were not going to call it quits like Buddy Haas did back then. They were going to fix Verstappen's car. Now, they had about 25 minutes before the light is turned on by the FIA, and of course that is the last time a car can be touched. Obviously, that's when the drivers goes in, the visor goes down, and they set off on the formation lap. They had about 20 minutes to sort something out. It's not really a massive story. Lo and behold, they did it. But it's just the fact that they did all of this under pressure. It was a 90-minute job, and they did it in 20 minutes. They did it in 20 minutes, sitting out there in the freezing cold. Well, not really freezing cold, it was in July. But it was the pouring rain. It was cold and windy conditions. They had parts on trolleys, and they were working on this car on the grid while all the other lights and all the other noise were going around them, all the pressure of, again, can we get Max Verstappen out in this situation, when again they knew that after again 2 strong races from Red Bull in Austria showed that they could have a push in 2020. Could they do this job in about a third of the time? Well, they did it. They did a 90-minute job in 20 minutes. They fixed the front ring, they fixed the suspension, and they did all the little niggly bits that they needed to do to get Max Verstappen's car sorted on the grid. He went off on the formation lap. He had an amazing start, and he climbed to 2nd position to finish in that race. Well, of course, as I say, he wasn't a race victor, but a 2nd place was so good from that. Even if he fell through the midfield, to be honest, Jordan, I would still be in awe of what these Red Bull mechanics did. They fixed his car in 20 minutes when it should have taken 90 on the grid in the rain. I mean, honestly, it's not a driver this time. Yeah. It goes to some people who deserve, underrated, and they deserve a lot more kind of, thankfully Max gave him a lot of praise afterwards, and I'm so happy that they got the admiration that they deserve. And as I said, for me, Jordan, they fully deserve this. So 90-minute job in 20 minutes. Could you do that? I don't think I could. I couldn't even fix a car in 10 hours. Let alone 20 minutes. So again, like when we watch this race, when we watch Max spin out, and then to start the race and go on to P2, absolutely incredible, wasn't it, to see that done by the guys and girls and the hard work at Red Bull Racing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was the one where I seen Verstappen go off. I was like, that could be race over before it's even begun. You got back to the starting grid, yes, obviously before the formation lap and all that, and then the Rebel mechanics jumped on the car straight away, diagnosed the problem, got out the toolkits and everything, and fixed the car, like you said, in literally half the time it was going to be taken on like a standard procedure job. Like it was amazing. And then next thing you know, Verstappen's wheel goes on. The pit crew take all the stuff back to the garage. Verstappen's there and he goes, "Thanks, boys. Let's have a good race." And he did. He had a brilliant race that day, and kind of credited the hard work that the mechanics put in, which, like Lyle said, there are very underrated, and I would say don't get enough credit to what maybe they should really get, because without them there is no racing. Yes, right. Without the drivers there is no racing, but you know what I mean. It's like they are very critical. It's key that they are. And I'd imagine that they'll be working flat out all weekend, even prior to that, because I think it was a back-to-back. I think it might have been 3 races on the bounce on the first one. So it was a very tough beginning of the season, and we knew. I think then there was another 3 races on the bounce again after that. So the mechanics were doing like 6 races in 7 weeks. So they'll be very tired, especially after the 3rd week, and there was like a week break coming up after the Hungarian Grand Prix.
I think we did I think we did four. I think we did 4 lots of 3 back-to-back triple headers. So yeah, we did the 2 Austrias in Hungary, break, 2 Silverstones, and we did about 4 lots of these, and that's how the season went. It was like 3 legs.
It was crazy.
We
knew it was going to be tightly packed because obviously they needed to get a season underway and wanted it to be about more than 8 races, but certainly a lot more than, let's say, 11 or 12. They wanted. At one stage, they wanted a full 22 race calendar, and we were like, "That's never going to happen, my friend. Never going to happen." But look, we got there in the end, didn't we?
It's January 21, and we're still plodding along in the 2020
for the 2020 season. We're in 2021. 2020 season ends, and a week later, 2021 begins. Well, that'd be weird. But no, it was crazy to see. Verstappen's mechanics. Red Bull are always well known for their quick pit stops anyway, so that just kind of cements them as the best team crew in Formula 1. So Sergio Perez is definitely going to have some quick pit stops in 2021. So I'm going to go to the very beginning of the season for my next moment. No, it's not the cancellation of the Australian Grand Prix. I'm not going to go that far back. Of course, I'm going to go to the new first race weekend of the season in Austria. I must say though, in fact, I tell you what, I tell you what, mid changing pecking order here. I've got one here. I'm gonna keep this on for that race, but I'm gonna add in this moment for the season, and I've just thought of this right now. The moment when the lights went out in Austria, and I'll tell you why that is, because we didn't think we were going to be getting a season at all, and when the Australian Grand Prix was cancelled, I was upset. I was devastated because I've been so looking forward to watching Formula 1, and then of course it was cancelled. Of course, understandable circumstances because of coronavirus. It should never went ahead anyways. Even if it did, it shouldn't have anyway. So good that they did cancel it. However, it was like, I was really excited for the season, and then bam, season gone. We didn't know whether we were going to be getting the season or not. Then eventually it was announced we were going to be going to Austria for 2 rounds, and I was just like, right, let's just get there. Of course, they had practice, they had qualifying, but when those lights went out, I went, we're back. We are back, and oh my word, that was such a good moment. That was such a good feeling to see the 5 lights out for the first time. The little beep, beep, the little beeps. David Croft, 5 lights, it's lights out and away we go. Oh, I know Crofty gets on my nerves at times, but that was just music to my ears. Like, I'm surprised we didn't even think of that moment of when we were planning these. Yeah, the moment when the light went out for the first time in 2020. Oh, that for me is up there. Is like, what a moment.
Yeah.
Is it for you?
To be honest, I'm surprised, I'm hats off to you for coming so fast. Or maybe you were sitting on that all day long, and you were like, you just wanted to throw it in at the end. I completely agree for sure. I mean, when Australia was cancelled, it obviously was looking very, very dark. Or other sports as well, and obviously the world was in a very bad situation. Formula 1 has definitely led the way in terms of restarting the season. We wanted the first, and we were, to be honest, Formula 1 is obviously on another level. Like the Premier League can restart, for example, but it's all in England. And Formula 1, it's around the world. Nothing is to a single country. It was insanely hard, and we got all this global sport off within a few months of it being cancelled. March to June. The decision was made in June, and of course July is when we got off. So March, April, May, July.
Wow.
April, May, June, July. So we waited 4 months for this to restart. So we restarted in 4 months. Basically from nothing. And what I like to have said is for many of these races, we all say yes, the calendars, it's been changed. But yeah, some of these races like Abu Dhabi was already on the cards. Silverstone at the allotted time it was going to go ahead was in the same position. Austria was in the same position. But apart from that, every single race was made up. Every single race, we basically scrapped it. We scrapped the calendar and we started again. And we've been to incredible places as well. We've been to track. We've done many races at tracks, obviously, such as Silverstone, such as Austria, such as Bahrain. We've been to tracks that we haven't been to in a very long time, such as the Eiffel Grand Prix in Nürburgring. Yep. And we've also been to tracks that we've never been to before, such as Mugello. It's been absolutely incredible. When that happened in Austria, I remember watching Friday FP1, which coincidentally was actually on the first day I started my summer job. And it was just so incredible to what I think it was Formula 3 or something at that time. But just just to see the cars back on the track. Yes, we had no fans. Yes, of course, it stuck out. Yes, the commentators were a bit, they didn't really know what to do. But the cars were on the track. And as Jordan said there, that was the main point. The 5 lights went out and 20 cars went up the Lauda curve and Formula 1 was back. It was... Yeah, I completely agree with you, Jordan. I say, hats off for coming up with that straight away because it definitely was a very special moment. And Austria was filled to the brim with action, what we definitely needed. I mean, things like Raikkonen's wheel coming off as well. Yeah, exactly. Latifi almost getting in the points. Albon spinning out, of course. I'm leaving out one major thing because I think we're going to mention that later on in the episode. Or if we don't, we'll definitely get to it. It's not just important for Formula 1. It's important for this channel. Isn't it, Jordan? Yes. It comes back to bite us, doesn't it? This moment comes back to bite us. And I'm not going to tell you where it bites us, but it's, somewhere that you can imagine hurt. Yeah. And it really did. And we'll mention that probably later on in the episode. Anyway, moving on to my third moment. We're kind of going a little bit, in the way out, leading off after Verstappen. Absolutely incredible. And this is related to Red Bull because obviously last year, if you remember, this certain Frenchman, part of Max Verstappen, he was kicked back to the junior team because he wasn't good enough, to be honest. Well, yeah. A few months later in Brazil 2019, he got a podium with Toro Rosso. Obviously, they're now called AlphaTauri, but the previous name Toro Rosso, he got a podium with them. So there we go. How'd you like them apples, Red Bull Racing? And then this season kicked off. Progressive from AlphaTauri with obviously their driver Daniel Kvyat from Russia, who will be replaced by Yuki Tsunoda for next year, and Pierre Gasly, of course, from this year, and of course he will be signed for next year. Also, very strong drives from both those, consistently in the points and in Q3. Also, Monza rolls by, and yes, Lewis Hamilton has a penalty, but it is the incredible driving to get that car in a good position. And then, of course, after Hamilton falls back, to go up and lead the race for almost a third of the race distance is French driver Pierre Gasly. And then at the end of the Italian Grand Prix in 2020, which we all thought was a race going to be dominated by Mercedes, Ferrari, and even with Red Bull in the mix with their straight line speed, was won by not a Red Bull driver, but an ex-Red Bull driver of Pierre Gasly. He takes the checkered flag in Monza to win the 2020 Italian Grand Prix. It is another how'd you like them apples Red Bull. Max Verstappen retires from that race, so it's even more of a how'd you like them apples Red Bull. And honestly, I mean, I know Pierre's probably not there to rub salt in the wounds of Red Bull anymore. He's probably gotten over what happened to him. And let's just, focus on him instead of comparing it to Red Bull for a minute. For him, he has won. He has taken AlphaTauri to get their second victory in Formula 1. They've only won at one circuit, AlphaTauri, or Toro Rosso as they used to previously be called, but they've won 2 times. Of course, they took their first win in 2008 with Sebastian Vettel, and of course went on to win their 4 World Championships with the brother team Red Bull Racing. Then 12 years later, Pierre Gasly wins with AlphaTauri. It's absolutely incredible. He deserved that win for sure. Seeing him going on the podium, he was so happy. He was elated. He was so happy for the team. He was happy to be on the podium. And it was absolutely incredible. Not just Pierre, but he was joined with Spanish and McLaren driver Carlos Sainz and Canadian and Racing Point driver and a man who we've just been talking about there, Lance Stroll. Absolutely incredible. Jordan, it was definitely one of the best races of the season. Pierre Gasly gets a victory for AlphaTauri. He also gets a victory in memory of his late friend Antoine Hubert, which again he shared some emotional and kind of words to spur him on, of course, given to Antoine a year ago before obviously he passed away, on terms of Pierre's demotion, and he really rode on those to, of course, get his first victory in Formula 1. It was an incredible weekend all weekend long, wasn't it? Firstly, we love to see Mercedes fail, don't we?
We do.
Drama happens when Lewis retires, doesn't it? But, forget Lewis for a minute, forget Valtteri for a minute. It was Pierre's day. It was AlphaTauri's day. AlphaTauri, it's their home race as well, you've got to remember. It was absolutely incredible race. And your man was in second, pursuing Pierre Gasly. But Gasly takes his first victory. It's incredible. I mean, what did you think when you saw that race?
Oh, it was a thrilling race. Absolutely brilliant Grand Prix. I think it was when we seen Italy was going to be on the calendar, we seen the pace of the Mercedes, we had an inkling that it wasn't going to be that good of a race because Mercedes were just so powerful in a straight line. Cornering speed was just as good. And literally we were just like, this is going to be a whitewash from Mercedes. But no, Hamilton had really good pace. He controlled the race. He pitted when the pit lane was closed, which you were not allowed to do. So we knew he was going to have a penalty. Then Charles Leclerc binned it, red flag, everyone go into the pits, and we knew Hamilton was going to have a penalty. And then the net leader would then be Pierre Gasly. And I think it was like he couldn't. Could he? Really? I think we were like, oh, this is going to be exciting, but I think we were skeptical. We were like, oh, Hamilton's going to come through the field, or Bottas could come through the field. And Bottas was just nowhere to be seen. And then Hamilton, yes, he was clawing his way back through the field, but we kind of, as the race, when the laps counter came down and down and down, we were like, yeah, he's not going to catch the lead, is it? We're going to have a new race win. It's either going to be Gasly, Sainz, or Lance Stroll. And oh my word, I was just so intense seeing them final few laps of Gasly and Sainz, because as a McLaren fan, I wanted Sainz to win. I wanted to see McLaren's first win since Brazil 2012. But even if he didn't win, this is me thinking at the time, if Gasly wins, I'll be just as happy because of what he's went through in the past 12 to 18 months. He crosses the line to win. Oh, it was so good to see. The emotions just let out. He's been through such a bad period of time. Yes, he lost his friend Antoine Hubert. He lost his driver Red Bull. He was at rock bottom. He picked himself back up. Toro Rosso / AlphaTauri gave him a nice cuddle and went, come on Gasly, you've got this, we'll get there. Get to the podium in Brazil, like Lal said earlier. And then he finally gets this race win. I mean, oh my word. And this is like at the halfway stage of the season, and we were like, I can't take this anymore. Like, what's going on in 2020? I'm like, oh my word, we've got another half a season of this. It was, and then just seeing Gasly sitting on the podium with his head in his hands, just like reflecting on the whole situation, just like, wow. I think the future path for Gasly, I think the starting point for maybe the next stage of his career will be because of this race win. I think this is a lot more important than maybe what people think of it as. Like, I think this could open the doors to certainly possibly some bigger teams in the future, because Gasly is a very good driver. He's certainly established this, and certainly one of my drivers of the season. And that certainly put the cherry on the cake for me. But what a moment it was for Pierre Gasly to win his first Grand Prix and become the first French driver to win since Olivier Panis in Monaco in 1996, which I was quite surprised as to how long it was between then and, since the French driver won in Formula One. So I was like, wow, that's incredible. But no, brilliant on Pierre Gasly. And speaking of the Frenchies, we're going to stick on to our French theme. We're going to go back from there all the way to the Sakhir Grand Prix, where there was a big moment that happened there. In fact, there was a couple of big moments that happened in that race weekend. We'll get onto them in a little bit. That's going to be the title of the episode now. But
the best thing we're going to say. The best thing we've said all. It's the last day of the year, John.
It is. Yeah.
This is the best thing we've said all year.
It is. It literally is. This is top quality content, guys. We're going out on a bang here. But one moment that happened at the Sakhir Grand Prix literally went completely under the radar. Esteban Ocon's first podium. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't exactly like bouncing off the walls at this, and I wasn't like, oh my god, this is the best thing like I've ever seen in my life. But quite frankly, Ocon was struggling this season, especially being alongside Ricciardo. He had a year out of Formula One, and I think everyone was starting to question Ocon's actual ability. Certainly, there was a lot of hype around him when he first came to Formula One. Then he had a year out, went alongside, to work at Mercedes. And then he went to Renault, and we were like, okay, then, what's been alongside a brilliant team like Mercedes? Surely he would have learnt a thing or two. And he was pretty much a little bit off the pace compared to Ricciardo. Ricciardo was storming ahead, and Esteban Ocon was, quite frankly, nowhere to be seen. In fact, there was times I forgot Ocon was even still in Formula One, because nobody ever mentioned him. But certainly I think a lot of people a little bit took notice to when Ocon got that podium in Sakhir, and everyone was like, oh, he's here. He's still here. Ocon's still here. He's still a driver. Wow, I thought you left. I didn't see him come in the door. Did you see him come in? I didn't see him come in. That's literally what it was like. But the reason why I mentioned this is because I just want to bring it up on the pure fact of I think it was a very good moment to get your first podium in Formula One for a team like Renault, who, let's face it, weren't a regular podium scoring team. When they came back into Formula One, it was still good to see from, Ricciardo got 2 podiums and Ocon eventually got his first podium in Formula One. I just think it was really nice to see for Ocon. And like I said, it went under the radar. So I'm definitely, I've got to mention it because I was happy to see him do it. And it will, is this going to be the first of many podiums? Probably not. But I think Ocon's one of these drivers where he will conjure up a good performance every so often, perhaps. It will be interesting to see what he does next season alongside Fernando Alonso, of all people. But no, I think Ocon getting the podium for me was definitely a moment I like to see. Lyle, Ocon's first podium in Formula One. It definitely went under the radar, didn't it? What were you thinking when you seen Esteban Ocon get P2 as well? He got P2 at Sakhir, just sandwiching the racing points. So yeah, Ocon in P2 at Sakhir. Do you think that good standout moment for you?
Well, my flatmate, her stepdad works at the Renault factory, so obviously it was all that she was talking about and all that I heard for like the entirety of that night and going forward. It was incredible. It really was absolutely amazing. Yeah, I completely agree there. Firstly, it went under the radar for sure. Obviously, George Russell, he took the seat of Lewis Hamilton. And that's where everyone's eyes were on. Obviously, yes, George could have won the race. He didn't. Mercedes kind of ballsed up. But that's where everyone's eyes were. And then, of course, a certain Mexican wins the race. But stick on Esteban, very, very strong from him. Now, yeah, as you said there, Jordan, sometimes I kind of forget that Esteban was even around. He was there in Force India in 2018. Collided with Sergio Perez, obviously, quite a few times. He got kicked out for Lance Stroll. Then he had that bust-up with Max Verstappen in Brazil, which, I still kind of get a bit squeamish now, thinking like, oh my God, Max Verstappen, what were you doing? He tried to, like, kind of really hurt him in Parc Fermé, but what was going on there, we don't know. Then the kind of the last memory I had of Esteban Ocon before I kind of realised, I was like, oh my God, he's on the grid, was in 2019 Australia. Valtteri Bottas, how about that? One of my favourite radio messages of all time. How about that? It's flawless. View of Esteban Ocon standing next to Toto Wolff in the garage going, ugh. And you could just see written on his forehead, after Toto Wolff had said days before that in the press conference, Esteban Ocon will be in a Mercedes seat. Valtteri wins. Oh, and you could just see Esteban's like hope of driving that Mercedes in the future just going, au revoir. Just like he's gone.
Right.
And yeah, that's probably the last thing I remember about Esteban. But this season it's been progressive, if it has for sure. And he fully deserves it. He really, really does. I do like him. I really did. I even liked him when he came into Manam Russia to replace, I think it was Rio Haryanto. Yeah. I was a big fan of him then. I was like, he'd been kicking around for quite a long time as well in Formula One in the background, and he was finally into Formula One. Big guy, reminded me of me a little bit, apart from being skinny, which I'm not, unfortunately. And I don't want to be Esteban Ocon level skinny though. That's ridiculous.
He's got long fingers.
And yeah, he fully deserved that for sure. Anyways, moving on to another Renault driver. Now, of course, Jordan just briefly mentioned that about the two podiums that had been scored by Renault before that. And I want to go back to the Nürburgring race, the Eiffel Grand Prix. Again, a track that we'd been to before. We hadn't visited in quite a few years because Germany has financial problems when it comes to Formula One, even though they are really one of the biggest motorsport countries in the world. We went to the race at the Nürburgring called the Eiffel Grand Prix. Not the Eiffel Tower, which I'm like, still, what? Like, what is Eiffel? But the Eiffel Grand Prix was here anyways. And I'm sure the Eiffel Tower's in France, guys, not Germany. What's going on here? Honestly, guys, what are we doing here? Racing or being in France? Anyway, Renault roll into the Eiffel Grand Prix. Renault have had a pretty good season so far. I think it was Spa, they finished in P5. They were in the positions. I think it was P4 for Daniel Ricciardo. Then Esteban Ocon even also got into the positions, and again, like AlphaTauri, they were getting regular Q3 appearances and top 10 finishes. Daniel Ricciardo had spoken to Cyril Abiteboul, who is the team principal of Renault, and he'd said that if he gets a podium before he leaves Renault at the end of the season to, of course, go to McLaren, he has to get a tattoo of whatever Daniel Ricciardo decides and wherever Daniel Ricciardo decides on Cyril's body. Cyril's like, nah, it's not going to happen. Well, I don't know. He probably wants it to. I mean, it's his team. But he's like, I'm sorry, mate, but you're not going to. I can, that's why I can make this ridiculous promise. Well, anyways, the Eiffel Grand Prix rolls by, and Daniel Ricciardo gets in a very impressive third place. Now, again, he's been on the podium before. His last podium was in Monaco 2018 with Red Bull Racing, of course, a team of which he left to make it big with Renault. It hasn't worked out. 2019 was painful for him. 2020 was redemption. Again, it still wasn't working like that, and we're not standing here and saying it was. But a podium was probably the best he could achieve. It was definitely a hard achievement to get in that Renault car. But nonetheless, he did it in the Ava Grand Prix. He crossed the line to get his podium. Now, firstly, I was very impressed. Daniel Ricciardo said on the radio, "Is this an effing podium?" To which the guy responded, "It is an effing podium," because it was such a good effing podium. It really, really was. But the thing that really stands out for me, Jordan, and again, I'm going to go back to the Red Bull pit crew of Max Verstappen. They're better than Max this year, because again, you remember that obviously Max crosses the line, they celebrate with him, they also stay for the next position to congratulate Daniel Ricciardo. Absolutely amazing sportsmanship in this moment, but nevertheless, Daniel Ricciardo, incredible from him. He's got a podium. Of course, he then gets one 2 races later. But obviously the damage is done for Cyril. He has to now get a tattoo. So, Cyril, what are you going to get? Please let us know, because I mean, I'm very excited to see what Cyril rocks up with. Like, I can't wait. Let us know in the comment section below what you think it'll be and where do you think it will be on his body. But nevertheless, Jordan, as I say, Daniel Ricciardo, first podium for him in Eifel and Nürburgring. Absolutely incredible performance from him in that Renault car. It's been torrid, it's been hard. Like we know from Nico Hülkenberg, it is hard. It's Heartbreak Hotel, to be honest, Renault. But he finally did it. And he gets a podium with the team, and then obviously 2 for the season, and obviously his teammate, as we just mentioned, Esteban Ocon also. But the scenes in Nürburgring were absolutely incredible. Again, how did you like that moment?
It was a good moment, definitely, because I am a fan of Daniel Ricciardo, and I have been for quite some time. I will be an even bigger fan of him now since he is joining McLaren, of course. But he's obviously one of the more popular characters on the Formula 1 grid. He created the shoey in 2016, and that's something that's stood with him ever since. And then when he went to Renault, his podium appearances were non-existent, more or less. He didn't get a podium in 2019. In fact, his last podium before the Eifel Grand Prix was his win in Monaco in 2018, which was his redemption race, so to speak, after his pit stop calamity a couple of years prior to that. So, yeah, Ricciardo's been on an up and down level kind of in his F1 career. A lot of people did question his move to Renault in the same way that we did with Lewis Hamilton. But before the season even begun, we knew he was going to be leaving Renault anyway to go to, McLaren, like we said before. And then, I think we all wanted Renault and Ricciardo to get a podium before Ricciardo left the team, of course, and of course for the Renault name to bow out of Formula 1 because they'll be rebranded as Alpine next season. So it'll be nice for Renault to get their one last podium, one last hurrah, so to speak, at this point. And Renault had been on a really good form all season long. Well, up until this point, anyways. They were in one of the 3 teams, Racing Point, McLaren, and Renault, to be in with a chance of getting to that 3rd position, which was left vacant by Ferrari. Thank you very much, Ferrari, for not being a part of the top 3 battle. So they kindly gave it to somebody else, which was McLaren in the end. Yes, boys. And to see Ricciardo across the line, we knew he would be smiling you could see a smile for miles. Look outside my window, I could see it. It was incredible. And I mean, but I will criticize him on one thing, Lyle. I don't want to criticize on this because it's a happy video. We're looking back at the season, our best moments. He didn't do the shoey on the podium. He forgot. How do you forget to do a shoey?
He did it on the second one, though. He did it on the second podium.
He redeemed himself. And actually, he did a shoey. I think he did a video of him doing a shoey because even he forgot, and then he was reminded in the media pen. And he was like, "Oh no, I've actually forgot." And we were like, "Really?" Everyone else remembers, and you, the person who created it, doesn't remember, which proves how long it's been since his last podium, so we can give him a bit of slack for that. But no, I mean, and like you said there, Lyle, as well, for seeing Red Bull to applaud their former driver as well was so nice to see. I like seeing that in sports where, like a former driver goes back to the team or a former footballer plays against the old club. It's always nice to see them getting some appreciation, unless they score against you. Then it's a different kettle of fish. But nevertheless, though, seeing Ricciardo, getting on the podium, it was very good to see. And certainly, as a McLaren fan, I was a bit scared at this point because I was like, Renault are coming. But did they catch us? Absolutely not. Right, so moving on to my penultimate moment of the season. I'm sticking with Sakhir for this one because I've got a nice little moment to end off with, which I think you might know what it might be. But before that, let's go back to Sakhir. Now, yes, I said that Ocon's podium was really good, very good to see. Went under the radar. George Russell in a Mercedes. George Russell, very popular with the F1 fan base, up and coming talent. He's been stuck in a Williams at the back of the grid in all of his F1 career. He was so close to points at a couple of moments this season. Fortunately, it didn't work out for him. And then Lewis Hamilton gets, contracts COVID-19. He's out of the Sakhir Grand Prix, Bahrain 2, so to speak. And then the big question arose: when is he who is going to replace Lewis Hamilton? There was a couple of names arising: Nico Hulkenberg, of course, super sub Nico Hulkenberg, Stoffel Van Dorn, Esteban Gutierrez, Mercedes' reserve drivers, Pascal Wehrlein. But no, it was current Williams driver George Russell that replaced him, which was brilliant to see. And yeah, I was really happy to see George Russell in a Mercedes. That was close, but not as close as this moment. Sergio Perez wins his first Grand Prix, 190 races. He finally wins a Grand Prix. I mean, I said this at the time. I think I did the race reaction to this. I said this at the time. This should have come this is long overdue for Sergio Perez. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He has got a handful of podiums with Force India / Racing Point. And even before then, in his Sauber days, which was, the early signs that Perez was going to be a very good driver. And he had that early switch to McLaren, which didn't quite work out, unfortunately, for him. But nevertheless, he went to Force India, in the midfield, and just revived himself, started again. Like what Gasly did, so to speak, he went to the top. It didn't quite work out for him. He went back to the midfield and kind of regained his focus, regained his confidence. And Perez quickly became one of the most consistent drivers in Formula One and one of the more popular drivers. Yeah. And it was only a matter of time before he was going to get a race win. But then the whole world came crashing down when it was announced he was going to be leaving the team to make way for Sebastian Vettel. And yeah, it didn't go down very well with F1 fans alike, because Perez, like I said, very popular guy. He needed a race win to go out on. And quite frankly, we were like, come on, Perez, you can do it. You got the car to do it. You just need the luck. And at this point, we didn't know where he was going to be next season. So with this could have been Sergio Perez's one and only F1 win. So, and even what made it even more special is that he was actually at the back, because he made contact with Charles Leclerc, and then Leclerc was out, Verstappen was out. He was trying to avoid the incident. He then hit the barrier, and then there was only 18 cars left following them two retirements. And Sergio Perez was at the back. He went into the pits to get changes to his tyres and his wing and everything. And then he rejoined at the back and he won the Grand Prix. Special moment. He crossed the line. Oh, that was on par with Gasly. I would say Gasly's edged it a bit, because who'd expect AlphaTauri to win? The Racing Point.
Yeah.
If I said to you, Racing Point will win this season, you would have probably went, I could see that happening with a bit of luck, but I could see it happening on pace. Yeah. But if I said AlphaTauri, you'd be like, wait, what? No, I don't think so. But even still though, it's like it was such a good thing to see. And even similar with Perez, he had been stuck in the midfield. He had that time in McLaren. It didn't go quite well for him. He lost his seat, and he goes on to win his first Grand Prix in Formula One. Lyle, we like Sergio Perez, don't we? We are big fans of Perez. Do like him as a driver. Very nice guy. Very quick driver. Getting his first race win. How big was your smile on that day? It was a good race regardless, but even still, it made it even sweeter with Perez getting his first win. So, yeah, what was your reaction to that?
It was absolutely incredible. Sergio Perez definitely deserves that for sure. A week ago in Bahrain, he gets an engine problem, which he has to retire from, in the podium positions as well. It was going to be absolutely incredible for him. A week later, and as Jordan said there, the main thing is he comes from last to first. Incredible. It's absolutely insane. It was shadowed by George Russell. He's in the Mercedes, which is a little bit of a shame, because that's not fair in a way. Everyone obviously looking at George Russell. They should be looking at other things. Sergio Perez, and obviously, as Jordan has mentioned there at the earlier, Esteban Ocon in second place, and then Lance Stroll in third place. So it's the first time Force India / Racing Point, and of course next year Aston Martin will have had a double podium. It was absolutely insane. It really, really was. Sergio definitely deserved that for sure. As things stood, as Jordan just said there, if he did retire, obviously at the end of the season, and he didn't have a drive, it would have been very special for him to basically have his penultimate race as a race win. And actually, he retired in Abu Dhabi, which meant that his last race that he would have completed would have been a victory. Okay, fair enough. That would have been a good memory to retire on. That would have been a good memory to leave on. But we weren't ready to say goodbye to Checo. We weren't ready to say adios yet. And thankfully, Well, I mean, possibly. Thankfully, he came through to be signed by Red Bull Racing to partner Max Verstappen in 2021. Alexander Albon, of course, the Thai driver who was pushed in, obviously, when Pierre Gasly, a management we formerly mentioned, was, of course, demoted back to the team. He stood up. Alex will go back to being the third driver, the reserve driver for Red Bull Racing, which isn't a very good role. Obviously, as we just mentioned there, George and Esteban have taken that role at Mercedes. You don't really do much. You kind of sit around twiddling your thumbs and you celebrate with Toto when you win another World Championship, but you don't do much. But anyways, I'd say it was good for Sergio to see him now re-signed, and that day was so special. And 190 now, he's waited the longest time in Formula 1 history, and he definitely deserves it. I hope that champagne or rose water in Sakhir tasted even sweeter because you waited so long. Anyways, moving on to my another big moment, my final big moment now. Unfortunately, not everything this year was smiles and happy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything, drivers celebrating wins or anything like that. One of my big moments, I think, which will be remembered in 2020 in the Bahrain Grand Prix, was, of course, an incident that happened on lap 1. Romain Grosjean, car number 8 at Haas, he went into the barrier after colliding with Danny Kvyat at very high speed, and he went up in flames, bringing out the red flag in one of the biggest Formula 1 crashes we have ever seen. I've ever seen, Jordan's ever seen, and many people have ever seen. Very similar to what people are saying was like Niki Lauda's crash in 1976. And it left all of us absolutely stunned. The red flag was brought out and the drivers went back to the pit lane, and we were it was a horrible moment to think about. So let's not dwell on that.
Yeah.
Firstly, Roman was absolutely okay. He was able to extract himself out of the car after about 25 seconds engulfed in flames. He was absolutely fine. He went to the medical centre in Bahrain with minimal injuries. He did sit out the next 2 rounds just for a safety precaution kind of thing. He wasn't also going to be re-signed for the next year. He was replaced by Brazilian driver Pietro Fittipaldi, obviously Emerson Fittipaldi's grandson. And Roman, as I say, made a full recovery. He still is right now, and obviously it was great to see him, basically even after a few hours of the impact, talking and making a video of himself in hospital. But the reason why I think this is such a big and rememberable moment from this season, Jordan, is the work that the FIA have done to effectively save Romain Grosjean's life. He went through the Armco. He pierced 2 layers of protective metal barriers on the circuit. The car split into half. He went through with the front survival pod and the halo cockpit into the second layer of the Armco, engulfing it in flames. And it was a miracle, of course, but he was saved by the FIA. He was saved by the halo. He was saved by all of the work, all the preparation by the FIA, by the doctors, by the medical staff, by the crew, everything that goes into making Formula 1 safer. They do regular drills to do extraction, the thing like that. The thing they've got to get out the car within 5 seconds and replace the steering wheel within another 5. They do this on a weekly basis. They also do regular training with the medical staff and everyone else, and it just shows. And it was absolutely incredible to see the work, and let's not let nobody have a go at the Halo cockpit anymore, because it has saved a driver's life. Now, Jordan, obviously, a lot of work was put into place after, of course, the late Joe Bianchi, of course, a personal friend, and, of course, fellow countryman of Romain Grosjean was killed in Japan. A lot of work has been implemented, and, of course, the Halo cockpit came in really because of course, that incident.
Yeah.
It has saved many drivers, such as Fernando and Charles' crash in 2018 Spa, but this is definitely the biggest.
Yeah.
No debate about this anymore. All the work that the FI and the FOM have done over the years have really shown how well everything comes together and how safety is so good in Formula 1 right now, and it saved a driver's life.
It did. Yeah, I mean, seeing Grosjean's crash was just horrific. I mean, I was speechless. I felt sick. I was like, he's dead. He is dead. There's no way in the world he's walking out of that alive. The car went up in flames, and you never see that in modern day Formula 1. It's so rare. Even in motorsport, it is rare to see a car catch fire like the way Grosjean's did. But then, when that moment of him just sitting in the car, just, oh my word, he's alive. Or even though, I think it was before that, I think Crofty or Anthony Davidson said he's out of the car. We're hearing word he's out of the car. He's in the medical car. Yeah. And you're just like, oh my word, please let that be true. Surely that is true. And then the camera switches to Grosjean sitting like this, just, being examined and stuff. And you're like, oh my word, mate, you are so lucky to be alive. And like Lyle said there, the work that the FIA have done, and of course the work to everyone at the track as well to get Grosjean out. Luckily, it was lap 1, and you had the medical car there as well, where, you know, it was the fire extinguisher was out straight away, getting the flames away from Grosjean, so he was able to get himself out of the car a lot easier, perhaps. And then, you know, being examined and stuff like that, and just sat down and going, right, are you okay? Can you breathe? Can you do this? Can you do that? And then, like, the halo definitely saved his life, because if it wasn't there, the arm core would have hit his crash helmet and he would have probably died from a severe head injury or unsurvivable head injury. And you don't want to see deaths in Formula 1, never, you know, absolutely not. You know, and I think people were still quite raw off the Antoine Hubert accident in Formula 2, which, you know, shocked the whole motorsport world to its core. And, you know, we were so close to seeing another one on that day, and Grosjean walked away with just a couple of burns on his hands and his legs, and you were like, that's it? Wow. I mean, it just shows how safe that car is, but it also shows that Formula 1 is still a very dangerous sport, so take nothing for granted. There will be work and learn from this about the positions of the armor core, the design of the cars, or however, and try to do an investigation as to why the car caught fire in the first place, because in heavy impacts it should never have done so. We've seen big impacts in Formula 1, but we've never seen the car blow up in flames. We've seen the cars catch fire because of an oil leak or whatever, but not literally explode. It's unheard of anymore in Formula 1. So hopefully the FIA will do a thorough investigation, learn from this, change a couple of designs perhaps, and fingers crossed we never see an accident like that ever again. We like seeing big crashes, but not like that. Absolutely no way. But no, that the Grosjean, you know, the work the FIA have done, seeing Grosjean being pulled out of there, him alive, wow, so good to see. So my final moment of the season, which is something you might not be surprised at, but you might be surprised at the same time. So this was going to be my moment earlier before I thought of the start line one. The lights going out, sorry. So at the first Grand Prix, yes, you know, races, you know, is going away nicely. Everyone's retiring left, right, and centre. Hamilton's not having a good weekend. I think Bottas goes wide in qualifying. Hamilton doesn't slow down for the yellow flags. He then gets a grid demotion about 10 minutes before before the start of the race. So he goes from like second to fifth or something like that. I can't remember. So he got a grid demotion, and then during the race he gets punted. Sorry, he punted Albon. He then got a penalty for that. That probably cost Albon a potential podium, possibly a race-winning position. So who could have known what would have happened then if they didn't make contact? For the second time in 3 races, Hamilton makes contact with Albon. Albon goes spinning. Hamilton gets a time penalty, a 5-second time penalty. Right behind him is young Lando Norris, absolutely setting the world alight in the Austrian Grand Prix. He's having a very good race in a decent McLaren. He's got good pace. Last lap, Lando was born. He chased down Lewis Hamilton. His race engineer had said Hamilton will have a time penalty. If you can catch him, we might be on track for a podium. Get within 5 seconds of him, and we've got that podium. Just absolutely sent it. He went for it. Last lap, Lando. He crossed the line 4.8 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. I think that's a podium, mate. And it was a podium. Oh, wow. That was really good to see. That was really good to see. Now, before you start with the obvious, or you're only saying that because you've watched your video, I was a fan of Lando before that, alright? I'm a McLaren fan. It was good to see McLaren on the podium. It was good to see Norris get his first podium in Formula 1. It was incredible to see. And the fact that the season got off with a bang, Bottas won the race, Hamilton, and of course Ferrari got on the podium as well, Charles Leclerc P2, let's not forget. So we got off to a crazy start to begin with, so we should have known then what kind of a season we were going to be endured to. But yeah, Lando Norris getting that podium. And did it make it a bit sweeter that the fact that you did watch our video? Yes, it did. Just a little bit, though. Just a little bit. I promise you that. But no, Lyle, I think that's a good one to end off with. You know, Lando Norris getting that podium. A good start to his season, which, let's be fair, was a pretty decent season from Lando Norris once again in Formula 1. Excited to see how he does alongside Daniel Ricciardo. But no, he got off to the season with a decent start. Last lap Lando, good moment, wasn't it? Seeing him catch Lewis Hamilton, of course, ultimately get within 5 seconds of the 7-time world champion's time. It was good to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it was incredible. I've actually got to correct you a little bit on that. Are we saying this because Lando watched our video? No, but the fact that I love this moment and the fact that we will remember this a lot more is because we made this video. Sorry, so we made a video, obviously talking about Lando Norris. Could he do this? Literally about a month beforehand. Yeah. And of course, yes, that very famous video that you all know about. And if you don't already, please go and check it out and like it. We can't afford another dislike, guys. Please don't. Where we said, well, I said the infamous words: "Is Lando Norris a world champion, or is he just a meme?" I was sitting here, right here, had last year's Red Bull shirt on. And, oh, God, we said this about a month before. I mean, yes, of course, congratulations to Lando for sure. But we didn't know that. We did not know that this was going to happen. But anyway, moving away from our video, obviously, we've made videos and talked about this a lot more before, so please go and check them out if you haven't already. It was absolutely incredible to see Lando on the podium. He was ecstatic. He was the youngest British podium stander. I would say podium sitter, but you don't sit on a podium, do you? It was absolutely incredible for Lando. It really, really was. He definitely deserved that, and he really excelled McLaren from that day. The first time they were on the first race and they were on the podium. Then that kicked off loads of podiums, loads of top 10, loads of Q3s, podiums from, of course, himself and Carlos Sainz later on in the season. Of course, as we just mentioned there, Carlos Sainz gets close to winning in Monza, chasing down Pierre Gasly. Absolutely incredible. But yeah, Lando Norris for sure definitely deserved that. Very strong from them. And of course, at the end of the season, McLaren finish in P3. He'll have a brand new teammate in Daniel Ricciardo, who we mentioned on this moment as well. So, but there we go. There are 10 moments of our favourites in 2020. Let us know, guys, your best moments, best remembered, the most remembered, the ones that just will make 2020 an incredible, crazy, one of the best, if not the best, Formula 1 season we have ever witnessed. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. We hope that you've enjoyed them. As I said, leave your comments down below. If you're on YouTube, please give us a subscribe, hit the notification bell as well, so you'll be notified every time we upload a video in 2021. We're heading into a very hectic, brand new year. Hopefully it can be better than 2020 for sure. If you're listening on SoundCloud, please give us a follow, and of course, as I said, also head over to YouTube for more of our content in next year. It will be a good one. But anyway, guys, that's where we're going to wrap this video. Thank you so much for watching. We have enjoyed this video. This will be the last one, of course, of the year. We hope that you had a great Christmas and a great holiday period. We hope that you will have a very, very happy new year and try and put 2020 behind us all. Let's just get into 21. Let's just make it a better year for us all. That being said, though, Formula 1 was, as I say, you might want to remember 2020 for Formula 1 because it was a good one. Anyway, guys, I say thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next year. Stay safe, and until next time, Happy New Year, and we'll see you later.
Happy New Year, guys, and we'll see you in the new year.